Hey, welcome back to another Millionaire Mind episode where I have some of the most successful business owners sharing what motivates them to get out of bed every morning and how they elevate themselves and their companies to the next level. And I've got another great guest joining us today. And throughout this episode, you're going to want to pay special attention to it because when you get involved into business, when you get involved into entrepreneurship, it's pretty well known that you need to be familiar and comfortable with yourself, your abilities, and trust in the process to get you to where you want to be. But something that's overlooked quite a bit, which is unfortunate, is the ability and trust to put into other people to help you get to where you want to be. And that's where your team, that culture really comes into play. So, really excited to have a conversation with our guest today around this topic and really get into his journey as well and better learn how and who he serves. So, special welcome to our guest, Joel Salomon. Joel, appreciate you joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me, Dallon. I really appreciate you. It's a real honor. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So, Joel, why don't you take a couple minutes and just share with our listener who you are and what you do today?
Well, first of all, and most importantly, I'm a proud dad to two amazing, caring, thoughtful, beautiful daughters, Lauren and Morgan. And my company is named after them. Lore for Lauren, Moore for Morgan. Lauren's 19 at Syracuse University, just took a month in Italy to get some credits there and travel. And Morgan's on her way to being a doctor. She's 17 and already an EMT, and quite proud of her. She is at Berkeley University in California right now doing EMT studies. So I do a lot for my kids, and family's important, and so my company name is named after them, and so that's most important. I call myself a prosperity coach. I teach people how to change their money mindset, and I teach emerging entrepreneurs who are not yet making a significant amount of money how to make a significant amount of money by overcoming their limiting beliefs around money and eliminating the roadblocks standing in the way of their financial freedom. So the most important thing is mindset. Second thing I teach is manifestation techniques. And the third thing I teach is investing. I teach DIY investing, which is actually rule number 8 in the 9 money rules Millionaires Use, my second book that became a bestseller. So I teach those key concepts to my clients through one-on-one coaching, through group courses. I also have a membership called the Money Miracles membership I started a couple of years ago as well.
Awesome. Maybe if we're lucky, we'll get a couple of those nuggets in our interview today. So awesome. I love the fact that you started with family, and I know for so many business owners, that's a big part of it. It's a big aspect of it, and the fact that you named your company after them, what a great way to honor them. So I think that's really neat. Now, you mentioned that there's 3 things that really go into this: mindset, manifestation, and then some of the investing. But before we really get into that and really what got you to what you're doing today, Joel, I want to, why is this information, and this is your opinion, right? Your thoughts, your research. Why do you feel like this information isn't more readily available for the youth and for people in the education system? Why is it that it requires people to get outside of school to be like, hey, I don't know anything about money or prosperity, so now I got to find people like Joel to help me shift that mindset and learn about it?
Now, it's a great question, and it still boggles my mind that basics of money, like budgeting and understanding checking and savings accounts and debit cards versus credit cards and investing, is not core curriculum in high school or in middle school. And you could give some controversial reasons why, that is so, but it is. And so, my daughters were taught by me a lot of these things through life examples. And unfortunately, most people growing up, I wasn't taught about money growing up. I took courses in college and after college to learn about finance. But most people who are not majoring in finance don't know it's difficult to become financially literate if you're not taught these courses in college or in high school. And look, the controversial explanation is that the powers that be don't want you to learn and become financially literate because that way they stay in power. But I believe everyone should become can become an entrepreneur, they're the best stewards of their own money. And I know this is controversial as well because trillions of dollars are managed by financial institutions around the globe and by financial advisors. But I truly believe that you're the best steward of your money and you can do it yourself, which is, again, rule number 8 in the 9 money rules. And it's not rocket science. I have people come to me and say, I don't have the time. Don't I have to have a lot of money? But it's not true. Those are just limiting beliefs. Oh, I'm not good at math. Use your intuition, which is, by the way, rule number 2, trust your intuition. And people have made a ton of money using their intuition in investing. So the point being that you can do it yourself. It's not taught in schools yet. I mean, there's more and more states requiring basic financial literacy topics, which don't go anywhere near what needs to get done. And the most important thing, and the topic of this podcast, the millionaire mindset, right? That is so critical because you can learn all this stuff. You can have financial literacy, but if you don't have the right mindset, I tell my clients you're going to be buying when you should be selling and selling when you should be buying, because your beliefs, your mindset is critical for investing and for your own financial lifestyle.
100%. And one of the questions I pose to a lot of people I connect with around this mindset of money and wealth and business, I ask them, I says, what comes first, the millions or the mindset?
Obvious, it's mindset. In fact, so it's interesting because I have a lot of people come to me because I'm a former hedge fund manager. I managed $700 million at Citigroup. I started my own hedge fund, quite successful. I actually made money in 2008. You may remember the market was down 40%. The stock market was down 40%. Financial companies, the only ones I was invested in, were down 57%. But we managed to make money that year and made more money in 2009. So I have a lot of people come to me and just want to get from an expert the basics of stock investing or real estate investing. And I say, I'll teach you, but we will spend anywhere from 1 to 5 or 6 weeks on mindset. Because if your mindset is such that you believe you can't be a good soul and be rich, or you have to work really, really hard to be rich and successful, these are limiting beliefs. And until we change these limiting beliefs, you can make a ton of money, you can and lose it right away. It's like the whole issue with lottery winners. They don't have the millionaire mindset. And so, yes, you can win $1 million or more in a lottery, but you're not going to retain it because you don't have the proper mindset. So you have to have the proper mindset first. And so I teach that first before we get into any aspects of investing.
I love that. And what I found in my experience is the quickest way to really dial in that mindset is to take action and just know that you're going to make mistakes along the way. You're going to make financial mistakes. You're going to make money. You're going to lose money, but that's how you learn. And it's very much a financial journey. It's a process that takes time. And to your point, that's why you hear about these people winning the lottery and then they go bankrupt because they didn't go through that process. They didn't go through that journey. They're not financially literate to be able to know how to effectively manage and grow and preserve that wealth that just came to them just about overnight. And the unfortunate thing is, I mean, you mentioned this too. A lot of us weren't taught this. We were maybe taught aspects of it from our parents, but a lot of times our parents were just teaching us what their parents taught them or what they learned through some of their experience. So I personally have seen and feel like there's this grand awakening going on. And I think social media is really helping to push it forward, proving that we are not, as a country as a whole, like individuals, we are not financially literate. And there's a lot more opportunity for people like you, Joel, to go out and say, hey, it doesn't have to be this way.
Right.
And to really educate people around truly how money works. Because if done properly, everyone, everyone can benefit from it.
Absolutely.
It doesn't have to be this rich poor type of thing. Like everyone truly can benefit from it, but they've first got to believe that it can happen. So I love that.
Belief is critical. And I just want to comment on taking action. My mentor, Mike Dooley, says taking action breeds clarity. Taking action breeds clarity. So if you're not sure in what direction to go in, just take a lot of baby steps in a lot of different directions and see what gets some momentum behind it. And then you'll get more clarity.
Love it. So Joel, let's take it back. You slipped this in there in your conversation that you were at one point a hedge fund manager overseeing $700 million. So let's talk about your journey. You talked about going to school, but when did this entrepreneur business journey really begin for you?
Oh, I had a dream in 1993 when I was working as an actuary. FSA stands for Fellow of the Society of Actuaries. And I was working as an actuary at an insurance company, but I had a dream to be a money manager. And I got a lot of doubt. A lot of people I asked how they got to be a hedge fund manager or mutual fund manager gave me doubt and said, Joel, you have a great job. It's the actuary is on the cover of Forbes magazine as the #1 job in the country in 1993. And finally, I found a guy who told me his path to get to be a money manager. And I basically took that. It took me 15 years with those doubts, those people who gave me the doubt in my head. And so I teach my clients now, hashtag doubt the doubt. Hashtag doubt the doubt. Have faith in your dreams and desires. And so it took me 15 years, but I did get there. And I thought that's what I was going to do the rest of my life. And I went to a personal development course in December 2015 while managing my own hedge fund. And two things happened there that changed my life. One was we were given a wooden board 2 inches thick, and we were told we're going to break it with our bare hand. Dallon, I don't know if you've done it, but there was a lot of fear in the room. The exercise was called Obstacles Are Illusions. And on one side of the board, we had to write our biggest obstacle. And then on the other side of the board, we had to write our ultimate goal, which stumped me for a while. And then it hit me. Make everyone in this room financially free. Make everyone in this room financially free. And now I broke that board like the other 200 people in the room did that day, just a few minutes later. And well, the second thing that happened at that course was we had a guest speaker speaking for 1 hour about stocks and stock options. And when he spoke about options in particular, he made it sound easy. He said, you don't need much time, you don't need much money. This is how the rich people get rich, and options are essentially risk-free. And I was sick to my stomach. This was day 2 of the conference. I had people tapping me on the shoulder, whispering me, Joel, does this make sense? Are options really riskless? So after he was done, we went out of the auditorium. I told him, please don't do this. He doesn't know any of you individually, and he doesn't know your belief that you can become rich using options. See, out of the 200 people, a handful were likely to become rich using options. So I went home that night and I couldn't sleep. First, the guy was in my head. And I realized if I could ever get up the courage to speak on a stage in front of 200 people, see, my biggest fear in life in December 2015 was public speaking. I could actually be of service to these people, not lie to them, and tell them the truth about money. And then the second thing going on in my head at 3:30, 4 in the morning was that wooden board staring back at me across my bedroom. Make everyone in this room financially free. I think it hit me at 4:30. I jumped out of bed. I quickly got dressed. I was at Midtown Manhattan before the sun rose. I was at my office at my desk, and I sent an email to my investors telling them I'm giving them their money back. I'm shutting down my fund. I figured out my true purpose in life.
That quick, huh?
That quick.
So let's talk about it, because that's a big move. That's
Big
a
move.
big move that you attended this conference over a weekend. You got home that evening, and just the clarity you received from that, you knew the next day, hey, I got to shut this down.
Yep.
What was the response like?
Well, it was interesting because it was crickets. I didn't get any response, which told me that the universe was leading me in the right direction. If I got, what are you doing? Don't do this. I might have had second thoughts. Of course, my CFO and my employees were not happy. And when I called my CFO into a conference room, she said, Joel, I thought you were going to give me a raise. No, we're shutting it down. So there was a lot of surprise internally, but externally, there was crickets. And so I said, this is the right thing to do. Of course, you can't legally shut down a hedge fund in a day. And my lawyer was quite upset, and we needed to send out a formal letter to the investors. And it took most of 2016 to actually shut down.
He was upset. He was upset from your just like, hey guys, I'm shutting this down. He's like, no, Joel, you can't do that.
Yeah, the legal entities took a year. Striking the final net asset value took another 6 months. So yes, it was complicated. It's a complicated thing to do, but my heart was elsewhere. And I, in the evenings and weekends, I started coaching people. And you mentioned kids. I've spoken at the Boys and Girls Club in Stanford. I spoke at a Girl Scouts conference in 2019 and last year, and I'll do it again later this year. So, teaching kids is important. I started doing that back then as well.
So you decided to make this change, shut down the hedge fund, and start educating people. And you said you started coaching them. At what point did you realize or decide that this is going to be a new business venture for you?
Oh, I decided it that day.
That day. Okay.
Yes. That it was like, I'm shutting it down and I'm starting this. And, I had a vision that I need to help people, however form that takes. I saw 200 people in a room with more than 50 of them running to the back of the room to sign up for a stock option course, which the person who was selling the course was making $1,000 per course. And so he made $50,000 in, an hour, and he was misleading people.
And you knew that these people, it wasn't a get rich quick. You knew there was risk involved, and you just couldn't, that just didn't sit right with you at all.
It didn't sit right with me. And I knew that these people didn't understand what was going on. The guy actually had a broker dealer, and they were going to have to trade through him. And so he was going to make fees on the other side. He wouldn't care if they made or lost money as long as they traded through him. There was a lot of, inappropriate things that were going on in that hour. And I knew that they didn't understand what was going on. And if I could get up on stage, which, by the way, I've now overcome that fear of public speaking and gave my TEDx speech 3 months ago called How to Create Money Miracles.
Awesome.
Which it tells about my journey, but most importantly, it gives people 2 specific techniques that they can use daily to change their money mindset. You have to be disciplined and have to do it every day, but you can change your money mindset by watching this 11-minute speech. And so, yes, that's what irked me, and I realized actually in the months ahead, because I went to a number of these seminars that are given in and around the New York metropolitan area. And it wasn't the only time I saw that happen. There were many times where there's hundreds of people in a room for real estate or whatever it is. And I truly believe that everyone's on their own journey, and not everyone's going to get rich in real estate. Not everyone's going to get rich in their own business. Not everyone's going to get rich in stocks. There may be a handful, and so that's great, but everyone's an individual with their own beliefs, their own background, and their own financial assets and cash flow and earnings, and everyone's in a different position, different age, different mental state. So not everyone should be taught the same things.
I appreciate you bringing that up, because I agree 100%. And me, myself, I am a real estate guy, and more specifically apartments, right? When you say you're in real estate, it's like saying you're in tech or you're in medicine. Like, what does that mean, right? Specifically, I love apartments. But the whole reason we have this show is because of what you shared, Joel. Like, there's people that are successful in every aspect of life. And the reason I bring these guests onto the show so that they could share their experience, so somebody can resonate with that journey. And if they're, maybe it's somebody that was an actuary or in some other type of industry or career that also wanted to be a fund manager. Now, just from listening to your story and your transition, when you hear somebody or see somebody do something that you want to be doing that you didn't think was possible, it now becomes much more possible.
Exactly.
So I love you sharing that. And I want to go back and talk a little bit about some of these seminars and conferences, because they could be very, very good, but unfortunately, I think a lot of people get taking advantage of there. But before we do, and I kind of want to get your take on that, we're going to take a quick break. So we'll be right back. Awesome. All right, welcome back. So Joel, right before the break, we talked, I wanted to get your take on some of these seminars that you've been to, because I've been to them. You see the people run to the back of the room, they sign up, and you know that they're probably not going to do much with it. And you know that the person selling it knows that they're probably not going to do much with it. And unfortunately, you see a lot of people get taken advantage of in these get rich quick type of scenarios. On the other side, I've been to some conferences that have completely changed my life. And I've met people, and you went to one, you got home that night and you're like, hey, I'm shutting it down. So share with our listener just your take on conferences. And if there is something being sold, what are some strategies or techniques that you might recommend to really vet that opportunity rather than just jumping right into it?
Again, it's back to rule number 1 in the 9 money rules, which is when you believe. And we've talked about belief a little bit, but I haven't mentioned that that's the number 1 rule in the book. And so what happened at the conference I was at was the guy increased people's belief level, where the scale is 1 to 10. 10 is absolute faith that this is the way to get rich, and 1 is massive doubt. No way in heck that's the way. He raised their belief level to 10 temporarily. And so they believed, because he was a great sales guy and he created wealth through stock options. And he believed that because it worked for him, it's going to work for everyone, that their belief went to 10. And so those 50, 60 people, because their belief went to 10, ran to the back of the room. Now, in the days and weeks ahead, that belief was going to come down. So what I would recommend is, asking yourself the question, is this belief going to be so high in the days and weeks ahead? Am I going to really be committed to this? There's 2 things in order to create wealth, and which goes into expectation. 1 is belief, and the second is desire. Right? So if your belief level is very high and you have a very high desire level, that's called expectation. And you're expecting to become wealthy. You're expecting to manifest money. So check yourself and ask yourself difficult questions like, am I gonna be disciplined in this course in the coming weeks and months? Have I been disciplined in the past? When I commit to something, do I stay committed to it? In my membership, It's a 6-month membership, and I drop videos every single month for people to watch. And I will tell you that there's only been a handful of people out of the 50 people that have signed up for my membership that have gone through all 6 stages. They're just, they're excited, and then they need to get reignited. Their desire and their belief needs to get reignited. And I'm pretty sure this happens in every membership. I'm very different because when I sign up for something, I'm gung ho and I'm going to go through it, and I watch everything, all the videos, and I just dive in. And I think I'm probably a small percentage of the population.
But
So
I
you
would
have to know yourself.
sorry to interrupt, but I'd imagine it's because you already have that belief system in what you want to do, so that when you find the product, you already know that, hey, this is where I want to go. This is where I want to spend my time.
Right.
So then the opportunity presents itself and you jump on it and you capitalize on it. Where I feel like in general, a lot of people just don't know. They
Yeah.
don't know what they want to do or what they want to be or where they want to go. And they're looking for other people to tell them that. So then they go to these events, they get hyped up, their belief in a certain topic goes from a 1 to a 10, and they're like, hey, maybe this is it. So they get excited, they sign up, they realize that it's not it, but it's because they don't have that personal clarity on what they want their future to look like. And they're looking
Absolutely.
for somebody to give them a quick fix. They're looking for that doctor to prescribe the pill to fix the problem. I'm sorry,
Right.
to fix the symptom, not cure the problem.
Correct. And what I tell my clients is there's no magic pill, right? We talked about taking action. We talked about winning the lottery, right? You still have to do the work on the mindset first in order to, if you do win the lottery, to have to retain the money. So I think it's really important to know that there's no magic pill. It's not, okay, get rich in one day. It's very rare that happens and it's retained. It's a process that takes time to build up over time, so that and you grow through the process as well. So that's important to understand.
And I think through this process as well, you're building your team, you're connecting with people, you're building your network, so that when you do strike gold, you have the resources and the network available to help you be a good steward of that capital.
Yeah.
To reinvest, to serve, to help others, and whatever is important to you at that time. So Joel, backing up, this was back in 2015. You went to that conference, decided, hey, I'm done managing money, and you jumped both feet into this coaching space, and you've been doing this since 2015.
Well, I shut down the hedge fund in 2016, so really put out the shingle in 2017.
Okay. So what was one of the biggest challenges you had in that transition?
Great question, Dallon. I think the biggest was not like just jumping in and having this big vision. And my mission, by the way, is to help at least 100,000 people become financially free. And having this big vision and not really having processes in place, not having a structure. And now I have a program, I call it the Fast Track Prosperity Coaching Program, which is individual coaching. I mentioned my Money Miracles membership that I have now. And all of this is in the last 3 years. And I've been doing group courses since 2019. And in the beginning, it was anybody. I just told everybody, I'm shutting down my fund. I'm coaching people. You need help, I'll help you. And it was ad hoc. It was pay as you go. There was no program and no structure. And so you need a process. You need a structure. I didn't have a book. Right now, I can teach the 9 money rules millionaires use. It's clear, right? I have a 9 money rules course, 9 money rules millionaires use course based on the book, right? So the book came out in September 2019. So for almost 3 years, I didn't have the program, the specific program that I could teach people. And I don't just teach that. But having that book and having that bestseller to work through as a course, as a program, makes it much more structured. Whereas in 2017, you want to learn about stock investing, I'll teach you for a week or a month or a year. It's pay as you go. There's no program. So having a structure, having a process, and then having support. I didn't even have a website, right? I didn't have anybody doing the website. So initially I started it myself. I think it's good to do a lot of things yourself to learn how they're done. But ultimately, if that's not your purpose, that's not your strength, then delegate. And there was a great book I read last year. It's Who Not How, and Dan Sullivan. And it basically discusses why you should delegate everything that's not your purpose, right? And we tend to, as entrepreneurs, do a lot of things ourselves, but looking at the cost, we don't look at the cost benefit analysis. Our time is very valuable, and a lot of times we're responding to emails or to calendar invites or setting up calendar invites that are low value items. So all those kinds of things back in 2017, 2018, they were just being done by me without, having the support of a team behind me. And I would, quote unquote, waste time doing things that weren't high value. For me, high value is helping somebody become financially free, teaching somebody what we've talked about. But if I'm setting up calendars, setting up a website, setting up courses, those kinds of things, producing videos fine, and producing content is great. I'm a content creator, but doing those other things I think is low value. And so having a team to support you is important.
And I think it's important to realize that just because we may not consider it high value of our time doesn't mean that it's not valuable. And there's people out there that don't want to be doing what we're doing and would love doing those things that we don't want to do.
Good point.
And I think we fall into this trap of like, oh, I don't want to do that, so it's going to be hard to find anyone to want to do it. And that's just a very ignorant and naive way of thinking, because in reality, look, I can underwrite real estate deals. I think anyone getting involved in real estate should understand the numbers so you can have sophisticated conversations. It's not my expertise. And when I look at numbers too long, I get bored. And so initially I felt like I always had to do that because I want to be able to find somebody that enjoyed it. And again, that was an ignorant and naive way of thinking, because now we found somebody that's incredible at it. They enjoy it. It energizes them, and they can do it so much quicker and more efficient than I can.
Right.
And that's just one example. In any business you're in, listen, I don't care who you are or how good you are at something. There's always somebody that could do it better.
Absolutely.
And it's just about finding that right person. But really, as the owner of the company, it's your job to create the culture and the vision of what you're trying to create. So that way you can attract the right skill sets and the A players into your team so that you can really capitalize and grow together.
Absolutely.
So Joel, let's you talked about earlier on that you like focusing on the mindset, the manifestation, and then helping people learn to DIY investing, to do it themselves. Could you walk us through a couple of examples of what you mean and what process you go through with somebody?
Sure. And it was interesting because you mentioned earlier, this was kind of a one-off, but somebody listening may hear that I went from actuary to hedge fund manager to money manager. And when I wrote my first book, Mindful Money Management, and I was featured in The Actuary after I wrote that book, an actuary reached out to me and said, I want to become a money manager. Can we sit down? And I didn't realize you were coaching now. And so we sat down, and he became one of my first clients. And I taught him how to go from where he was to where I went, and teaching him how to become a great investor, an analyst, And that was a one-off, but it was, yeah, I teach people how to invest now. So I teach people in my book, The 9 Money Rules Millionaires Use. I have a 5-step proprietary stock screen. And so I teach people this 5-step stock screen. You can just use it to screen for stocks, or you can go beyond that and create price targets and upsides and downsides, which I teach my one-on-one clients as well. So that's one aspect of what I teach, investing. I also, but mostly what I do is as I mentioned, is I'm helping small business owners, emerging entrepreneurs who are not yet making a significant amount of money, and I'll call significant $20,000 a month. So if you're not making at least $250,000 a year, I can help you get there. And usually it's a lot of belief work, mindset work, worthiness. And so I have techniques, as I haven't mentioned, as you see here on my card, I'm a certified infinite possibilities trainer. IP stands for Infinite Possibilities, a book that Mike Dooley wrote. And so we go through how to change these limiting beliefs to empowering beliefs. Because most people are taught, as I was taught growing up, we can't afford that. Money doesn't grow on trees. That's too expensive. You can't be spiritual and rich. And these are just limiting beliefs. And they're not serving you. And so by shifting those to empowering beliefs, and there's ways to do it, specific techniques through affirmations. And by the way, my TEDx talk talks about a couple of ways to shift those beliefs, using affirmations, using specific habits, using audio files, and techniques such as acting as if what you want to happen has already happened. And I'm sure this, Dallon, and a lot of your listeners and viewers know these things, but there are specific ways and techniques that will create the empowering beliefs. And you have to live it, right? You can't just say, okay, I'm going to do this one day and I'm done. You have to make it part of your daily discipline.
And that's the challenge, because a lot of us know what we need to do. Like if you want to lose weight, go to the gym and you eat healthy, right? Like in reality, that's it. You exercise and you eat healthy food. So why do so many of us struggle with it? And it really comes down to that discipline. So a lot of these things that you're sharing, sure, I'm sure a lot of people have heard about it. They know what they got to do, but is this the episode? Is this the day? Is this the time you're going to decide to actually take action? That's really what it comes down to. And you
Actually
can
critical.
That's what it really comes down to, right? It's because when you take that action, you're going to gain confidence and you're going to gain courage in yourself first and foremost. And when you start experiencing confidence and you start gaining courage, it's going to compound and it's going to lead you to do more and more things that otherwise you thought you couldn't have done. But it starts with you. And sometimes it's as simple as listening to somebody on the show. Maybe it's going to a conference and learning from someone. Maybe it's reading a book. But at the end of the day, it comes down to you. You're the one that's got to want it strong enough to be willing to make that change and to take that action.
Exactly. And I have clients sign up, fortunately and unfortunately, clients who sign up for one-on-one coaching with me, and they believe that all they need to do is get on a call with me once a week for an hour and things will change.
They're looking for that pill. They're looking for that quick fix, that pill that's going to fix
and that's
everything.
not how it works. So you need to take action in the week in between that we meet. And I give people follow-ups. In fact, I had a client, she was awesome because she did all the follow-ups. She was an emerging entrepreneur and she had made all of last year $40,000. And so she started working with me and she tripled her monthly revenues in the 90 days she was working with me. And the reason was because she was disciplined. Everything I gave her to do, she did. And it's not like I gave her a whole page of things. I give a few follow-ups each week. And sometimes they get a little bit longer because you don't do the follow-ups each week and they compound and compound. but she didn't have them compound. She did the 3, 4, or 5 things each week. She was disciplined, and she not only tripled her monthly revenues, but was most gratifying for me is that she can now talk to her former husband about money without either of them getting angry or upset. They have a adult discussion around money, which is so gratifying.
Which is huge because, again, a lot of this stuff isn't taught in our youth. And so you've got to learn it outside, but so very important to understand how money works, because some of the most caring and giving people I've met are some of the most wealthy people I've met. And people fall into this trap of, oh, well, when I get to that point, then I'll give more. And I'd like to challenge that notion and mindset and say, no, it starts today. Like, even if you don't have much, there's always something you can give. And honestly, if you don't have money, give your time. Give your time. Because my belief, and I think a lot of people feel this way, they know and understand and recognize that time is finite. Money will come and go. Money will come. Your time will not. So when you can dedicate and allocate some of your time to an individual, that's a way you could start giving today. Even
Absolutely.
if go ahead.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. I was going to say rule number 6 in the 9 money rules millionaires use is the law of generous giving.
Love it. It that's where it starts. That's really where it begins. So, wow, this is incredible. You know, Joel, at the start of this podcast, before we started recording, we talked about the time frame, and I said, hey, I promise you it's going to go quick. Look at it. It's already freaking flown by. But man, I love this topic. I love the conversation we had. And as we start winding this down and wrap it up, what's next for you? What's next for you and your company? Where are you headed?
So what's next is my mission is to help at least 100,000 people become financially free. I want, I mentioned the Money Miracles membership. So that's a big part of my growth in my business, is to grow those 40, 50 members to 500 to 5,000. It's what's really mind-blowing is I started it less than 2 years ago, and my Money Miracles membership members have manifested $1,661,000 so far.
Wow.
And what's most surprising to me is I could not have predicted 1 cent of that 1,661,000. It came from left field every single time. And we have 4 members that have manifested over $250,000. And the rest have still manifested over 600. So it's the 80-20 rule, but still just mind blowing how the money has come in. So that's number 1. 2 is growing the fast track prosperity coaching. I still have capacity for more one-on-one coaching clients. I'd love to help more people. And once that grows, and I'll have my idea is to have prosperity coaching coaches who work for me. So I teach people the key concepts from my books, and then they can work for me, and we can help more and more people. So those are the 2 areas of growth for my business.
Awesome. Love it. So, Joel, as we wrap this up, there's 4 questions I like to ask every guest at the end of every show. And the first one being, what is one absolute book recommendation for those looking to scale and further develop their millionaire mind?
So Think and Grow Rich is my Bible by Napoleon Hill. I read it twice a year. It has so many nuggets in there. And I will tell you, every time I read it, it's a new book. And it's not a new book because it's a new book. It's a new book because I'm in a different place and I get something different out of it. And it's timeless. The techniques and recommendations in there, I think, are priceless and timeless. The book was written 100 years ago. It was commissioned by Andrew Carnegie, who asked Andrew Carnegie, who was the richest guy in the world in the 1920s, asked Napoleon Hill to interview more than 500 of the most successful people around the globe. And he gave him access to them, and then come together and put some, what are the characteristics of the most successful people in the world? And so that just an amazing, awesome book that I highly recommend everyone should read at least once.
It's a classic for entrepreneurship. It really is. So, what has been one of your favorite quotes that you've embodied and lived by?
Whatever the mind of man can conceive and bring himself to believe, he can achieve. Which is, by the way, in Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Love it. And if there is one thing, Joel, you could share with fellow business owners that are beginning or simply trying to get to that next level, what would it be?
Well, I already mentioned this earlier, but I think it's so important to hashtag doubt the doubt. You know, don't put out the big dream until like to the world, until you're close, but doubt the doubters. You know, I had so many people say you can't be a hedge fund manager, you're an actuary. And I think that's the reason why it took me 15 years. So doubt the doubt, have faith in the dream, and continue pushing forward on that dream.
Awesome. And Joel, how can our listeners learn more about you and your business?
So we talked about giving, and I'd love to give something away right now. So if you text to the number 66866 prosperity, so text to the number 66866 prosperity, you'll get a free white paper, and it will help you change your beliefs. It's called the 5 Mistakes New Millionaires Make. So act as if you're a new millionaire and download this. So that white paper you'll get, of course, added to my email list, which is a ton of free content. I put out a free video every week. I also have my website is salomon.com, so you can go there for a ton of free content, manifestation techniques, affirmations, audio files, and a lot of testimonials too. salomon.com.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Look, this has been an incredible conversation with Joel. And if this is your first time listening, I'm so glad that you tuned in. People have been asking me what my company does. So since I have you here listening to my show, I'll share that with you now. My company partners with busy professionals just like Joel that are looking to experience significant tax savings, have more to invest, and even reinvest their hard-earned capital. And we work with other successful business owners like you by offering them opportunities to invest alongside us in large apartment deals. At Rev, we found that the most successful business owners have a strong desire to give and serve, and we simply provide the vehicle to enable them to grow and preserve their wealth so they could give up their time and financial success more abundantly and freely. If you've been wanting to get involved in apartment investing but have been too busy to figure out where or how to start, then you can find out how I could serve you by visiting investwithrev.com and schedule a 15-minute discovery call. It could be overwhelming vetting the right investment and the right operator, but at Rev, we make apartment investing easy. Joel, again, thank you so much for your time and such an incredible conversation just around mindset and money. So definitely appreciate the experience and the knowledge that you brought to our call today.
Thanks so much, Dallon, for having me again. Great honor and pleasure. And yes, really great to be here.
And to our listener, remember, you can't have $1 million dream with a minimum wage work ethic. So go out there and earn your win for today, and we'll catch you on the next episode.